Good evening, everyone. You're watching Awaz News. I'm Kubra Ali, and I'll be taking you to top news across Canada.
Iran fires dozens of missiles into Israel in sharp escalation of regional conflict. Liberals survive second conservative non-confidence vote in as many weeks. Attorney says 120 accusers allege sexual misconduct against Sean Diddy Combs. Canadian government not ordering Novavax protein-based COVID-19 vaccine this year. Second teen sentenced in death of Kenneth Lee gets 21 months probation. Deeply concerning, man fatally stabbed outside Toronto Plaza in one of the 3 overnight homicides in GTA. 1 dead, 2 in hospital after shots fired during break-in at Mississauga home.
Those were the headlines, and now let's look into the details.
Earlier on Tuesday, Israel said it had begun limited ground operations against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes and artillery fire pounded southern Lebanese villages, and Hezbollah responded with barrage of rockets into Israel. There was no immediate word on casualties. While Hezbollah denied Israeli troops had entered Lebanon, the Israeli army announced it had also carried out dozens of ground raids into southern Lebanon going back nearly a year. An Associated Press reporter saw Israeli troops operating near the border in armored trucks with helicopters circling overhead, but could not confirm ground forces had crossed into Lebanon. Ahead of Israeli announcement of an incursion, U.S. officials on Monday said Israel had described launching small ground raids inside Lebanon as it prepared for a wider operation. The Israeli military official said Hezbollah had also launched projectiles as Israeli communities near the border targeting soldiers without wounding anyone. Israel's statements indicated it might focus its ground operation on the narrow strip along the border rather than launching a large invasion and aimed at destroying Hezbollah as it has attempted in Gaza against Hamas. Hezbollah and Hamas are close allies backed by Iran, and each escalation has raised fears of a wider war in the Middle East that could draw in Iran and the United States, which has rushed military assets to the region in support of Israel. Israeli strikes have killed over 1,000 people in Lebanon over the past 2 weeks, nearly a quarter of them women and children, according to the health ministry. Hundreds of thousands have fled their homes. As the fighting intensifies, European countries have begun pulling their diplomats and citizens out of Lebanon. The Liberal government has survived a second non-confidence vote in as many weeks, putting at bay once again the possibility Canada would be plunged into an immediate election campaign. Members of Parliament voted on a Conservative motion this afternoon that called for MPs to declare they have lost faith in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his 9-year-old government. The Liberals, NDP and Bloc Québécois voted against the motion, as they did with a similar motion last week. Last month, the NDP ended a supply and confidence agreement that had stabilized the minority government for more than 2 years. Earlier in the day of the Bloc forced a debate in the House of Commons about increasing old age security payments for all seniors, something that party says is key to earning its support. Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet has given the government until on October 29th to greenlight the pension bill, which is estimated to cost about $16 billion over 5 years. An attorney said Tuesday he is representing 120 accusers who have come forward with sexual misconduct allegations against Sean Diddy Combs, the hip-hop mogul, who is awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Houston attorney Tony Busby said he expects lawsuits to be filed within the next month. Busby described the victims as 60 males and 60 females, and that 25 were minors at the time of the alleged misconduct. Combs, 54, has been locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn since pleading not guilty September 17 to federal charges that he used his power and prestige to induce female victims into drugged up, elaborately produce sexual performances with male sex workers and events dubbed freak-offs. Lawyers and the other representatives for Combs did not immediately respond to an email seeking comment. Busby has also represented women who accused NFL quarterback Deshaun Watson of sexual assault. The Associated Press. The Public Health Agency of Canada says it is not providing Novavax COVID-19 vaccine this respiratory virus season, citing low demand. It says the manufacturer requires a minimum order of its updated protein-based vaccine called Nuvaxovid, which far exceeds the uptake of Canadians last year. The agency says its very small portion of the doses ordered in 2023 were used and that its decision reflects efforts to limit vaccine wastage. It is distributing two mRNA vaccines made by Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna that are approved for adults and children 6 months and older. Both COVID-19 vaccines have been reformulated to target the recently circulating KP.2 subvariant of Omicron. Novavax vaccine, which was approved by Health Canada last month for adults and children 12 years and older, has been touted as an alternative to the mRNA vaccines. The Public Health Agency says provinces and territories have the option of ordering the vaccine, which has been updated to target the GN1 subvariant of Omicron directly from the company. As of the Tuesday afternoon, several provinces, including Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland and Labrador, confirmed to the Canadian press that they aren't placing orders for Nuvaxovid. The Public Health Agency of Canada said in an email that its contract with Novavax only provides access to domestically manufactured vaccines, which Novavax has been unable to confirm for the 2024-25 season. The minimum order requirement was based on buying Novavax vaccine that were internationally produced, it said. In emails to the Canadian press, Novavax confirmed that it produced its updated vaccine outside the Canada. It said the company significantly depends on its supply agreement with Serum Institute of India Private Limited, but would not elaborate further. With files from Hannah Alberga in Toronto. The second teen to be sentenced in the death of the Toronto homeless man will not serve any more time in custody but will spend close to 2 years under probation. The girl pleaded guilty to manslaughter earlier this year in the 2022 death of Kenneth Lee, a 59-year-old man who was living in a city's shelter system. In a hearing Tuesday, the girl, who was 13 at the time of the incident, was given credit of 15 months of pre-sentence custody and ordered to serve 21 months of probation under an intensive support and supervision program. Justice David Stewart Rose noted that the girl apologized in court for the pain she has caused and has insights into her conduct, which he said is important in meeting the sentencing goal of accountability. Rose pointed to the fact that the girl was forced to strip naked during 6 searches at 2 facilities, where she was held and was placed in isolation for 24 hours after a judicial order prohibited strip searches as a significant mitigating factor. There is nothing to be gained by further custody, Rose said. The judge said no risk assessment was included in the girl's pre-sentencing reports, but that he deemed her to be a real risk to reoffend violently if she doesn't undergo intensive treatment and counseling over the next few years. The girl also faces a 10-year weapons ban as part of her sentence and must maintain mental health treatment or counseling as set out by the supervision program. As well, she cannot have any contact with her co-accused for the duration of the probation period. Another girl who also pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the case was sentenced last month to 15 months of probation under an intensive support and supervision program after she was credited for 15 months of pre-sentence custody. Police have alleged that Lee died after he was swarmed and stabbed by a group of girls. 8 teens all between the age of 13 and 16 at the time, were arrested and charged in the case. 4 have pleaded guilty in case 3 to manslaughter and 1 to assault causing bodily harm. The 2 who have not yet been sentenced were also in court Tuesday to challenge the strip searches they underwent into custody on grounds that their rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms are violated. Staff who worked at the institutions where the girls were held have been called to testify. Another 14 are set to stand trial next year, 3 for second-degree murder and 1 for manslaughter. Toronto police are investigating the fatal stabbing of a man outside a restaurant at a plaza in city's West End early Tuesday morning, one of 3 homicides to take place in the GT overnight. It happened in the area of St. Clair Avenue West and Jane Street at around 12:19 a.m. Paramedics arrived to find a man suffering from stab wounds, and despite life-saving efforts, the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Members of the Police Services Homicide Unit are leading the investigation. Police have not released any information on possible suspects. There is a heavy police presence at the plaza as the investigation continues. The stabbing came out about 20 minutes after a man was shot to death outside a plaza near Lawrence Avenue and Allen Road. During an update on both homicides on Tuesday, Acting Inspector Todd Choco told reporters that officers are working around the clock to investigate the deadly incident. He added that police are urging members of the public to come forward with any video footage they may have from the scenes. Police in Peel are also investigating an overnight homicide in Mississauga after 1 person was found dead and 2 others were wounded near Central Parkway and Joan Drive, west of Ontario Street. It is not clear how the victims in the incident sustained their injuries. 1 person is dead and 2 others are in hospital after break-in at a Mississauga home early Tuesday morning ended in gunfire, Peel police say. Officers were called to the home near Central Parkway and Joan Drive west of Ontario for the weapons dangerous call at around 3:45 a.m. Speaking to reporters at the scene, Constable Mandeep Katra said police arrived at the residence and found 1 person suffering from obvious signs of trauma. The victim, a man in his 50s, was transported to a trauma center where he was pronounced dead. 2 other men were also located at the scene and transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Katra said police are still trying to piece together what transpired, but investigators believe that as many as 3 suspects forced their way inside the residence before an altercation took place. At some point, a firearm was used, Katra said, adding that investigators are still working to determine a motive. We are looking at all different avenues, so it's very early to give motive, but our investigators will look at every different lead and hopefully figure out what exactly happened, he said. There were multiple people inside the home at the time of the incident, Katra said, though he couldn't provide a specific number. The 3 suspects fled the scene on foot, but police have not released a description. The homicide is one of the 3 that occurred in the Greater Toronto area overnight. Toronto police say 1 man was stabbed to death near St. Clair Avenue West and Jane Street, and another was shot and killed near Allen Road and Lawrence Avenue West. The 3 incidents are not related. Police are asking anyone who has information for surveillance video related to the Mississauga shooting to contact police.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kubra Ali. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a good night.